Well, happy 4th of July. Uh, Myself and Christine, the one cat, wish you all the very best. Um, Let us try our best to remember what this day signifies. It signifies freedom, it signifies liberation, and we hope that everyone can celebrate that. Today, I thought I would spend some time. Um, I'm going to debunk. Remember, this is Mark Tripp on Reality Check, where martial art myths come to die. I've already got into another one with somebody, and we're going to talk about that whole process. But then we're going to get to traditional judo. But let me explain how this kind of works. If you've never read anything from the amazing Randy, they're blowing off the neighborhood out there, and I have PTSD, so I love this time of year. Or you've never read The Skeptical Inquirer, which is really important, and you haven't studied critical thinking or taken any logic classes. These are important things because what happens always happens this way. Now, this particular subject, I got pushed off of Quora and on one of the judo channels here on YouTube, created a huge stir. Now, before I get into specifics, let me put this to you in a way that everybody's going to understand it. Let's say we're talking to somebody, me, you, and a third person. And the third person is telling us the tale of the purple dragon he has in his basement and all the fun things they do and all of the tricks he knows. And he's going on and on about how wonderful this is. And then, frankly, naturally, we say, can we see the purple dragon? And he says no, and gives us some ridiculous excuse why we can't go see the purple dragon. And then you and I, being normal, rational, thinking adults, say, well, believe anything you want, but I'm not going to believe you have a purple dragon in your basement if you don't show it to me. And then the person gets in a violent rage, screams, yells, appeals to authority, telling you all of the certifications and letters in front and behind his name and all of these things he's done, none of which have anything to do with having a purple dragon in your basement. Now, yeah, that's kind of a ludicrous example, but it really makes the point. There are two subjects in combative martial arts that are subjects for incredible contention here on YouTube and over on Quora. I was driven off of Quora for a similar argument. And those two things are an unarmed guy, always has an unarmed person here. And then it's either defending against a knife attack or defending against a gang attack. And you have people out there that not only believe it's possible, not only think you can train to do it, they all have some story of somebody who did it and could do it. And when you challenge that story, wow, do they get mad. Now, to begin, we're going to deal with knife stuff some other time. I'm just going to deal with one single unarmed opponent versus a gang. All you have to do, remember, check your premise daily. Don't take me at my word. Check my premise too. Right here on YouTube, I want you to search for team, TEAM, martial arts. I'm sorry, mixed martial arts. I'm getting all sorts of people texting me and stuff now. Team MMA. You're going to find it's a thing. I've never seen it in this country, but it is a thing. I want you to watch them. You don't have to watch them all. They're kind of fun. If you thought regular MMA was barbaric. But basically what you have, and I've talked about this before, you have 4 teams of 4. And everybody gets into the ring, and you got a referee, and they ring the bell. And this team of 4 fights this team of 4. Boom. I timed that. I don't know if you heard the explosion. I did that, and the fireworks went off. Anyway, every single one of them to a match all end the same way. And that way is this. The one-on-one part may go on for a while, but sooner or later, one team is going to take somebody out of the game before the other team does. And at that point, you're in a 4-3 situation. And the second that happens, that match is over. Oh, there's still going to be some time. And as we used to say when I was a kid, it's all over but for the shouting. People are going to cheer and scream. But this is what happens. The second it's 4-on-3, 2 people are going to go to one guy. And it doesn't take very long. That one guy that has to fight 2 people, you will never see that guy knock one of these guys out. It does not happen. He gets eliminated because it's 2-on-1, and there is no unarmed way to deal with that. And now it's going to be 3-on-1. And guess what? Even faster, the one is going to get eliminated. And now it's 4-on-1. And that guy's cooked. Watch them all. Don't take my word for it. Every single one of those matches ends the same way. Now that is verifiable. It's proof. We can look at it. And it's unarmed. Would it be different if the one had a knife or a gun? Well, possibly. But unarmed, he does not have a chance. And I posted that and where you could find the video proof on that other judo channel. And somebody came in and posted, there's a K1 champion who fought 10 men and they couldn't touch him. Guys, that is just about as ludicrous as a purple dragon in a basement. But I will not be disrespectful. I will not laugh, chuckle, cough, or say bullshit. I said, really? Is there video of this? Is there proof? And he said, oh, it's out there somewhere. It's grainy, but it's out there. And I finally had to say, well, if we're talking about a K1 fighter versus 10 Cub Scouts, maybe you got a point. But I don't care if he was the world champion kickboxer. If he's fighting 10 full-grown men in their prime, he's one finished K1 kickboxer. It does not happen. And like I just said, if I'm not seeing it 2-on-1 in Team MMA, I'm supposed to believe somebody's doing it 10-on-1? This is not a Steven Seagal movie. It is not a Bruce Lee movie. Well, when I said I got to have proof, and understand what James Randi said about all of this. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Rather than give me any, he became very insulting. he, again, the appeal to the authority, all of his ranks, all of the things he's done, none of which has anything to do with who was the K1 fighter who beat 10 men. And then I said what I always say was, well, pick your guy, come on down to the school I work at, pick out 4 guys, not 10, just pick out 4. And if you can do it, I'll give you $1,000. Then he got even more upset on how disrespectful I was. And that part always amazes me. When I expose somebody who's a fraud or is lying, not saying this guy was, but I'm the disrespectful person. Well, if I know you bought your judo rank and you're not really an 8th Dan, if I say that and I can prove that, that means I'm disrespectful? No, you're a fraud and you're a fake. And you're wearing a belt you didn't earn that defecates on all of those of us who did. So remember, and I meant it, right here is where martial art myth comes to die. If I'm wrong, I am more than willing to say my premise was flawed. I believed this, but I've seen this, because that's what science does. Okay. Today, there seems to be more than ever movement in this country for people who want to do traditional judo. Now, first, we have to define it, and it's elusive. Basically, what it seems is anything the IJF says is bad, and anything they think Kanu Setter did is good. And they want to do judo the way they think Kanu did it. And these people are well known for making outrageous statements. I took a bunch of them on recently about judo kata. And they were saying, if you can't do the kata, you have no business wearing a black belt. And when I said, excuse me, but in judo, black belt is a division you fight in. And if you're fighting in that division, you should wear the black belt. And of course, they all disagreed. And so I did a little looking into all this stuff. First, this is not my first rodeo. I have been involved in my judo career with 2 different international judo groups. I know both of the people who operated them intimately because I was there intimately. I'm not going to name the first one. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to say this. When I came to where he was and his programs were, and I put a judo gi on, and I got on his judo mat with all of these kids who had been training there for 2 months, not a single one of those kids had ever thrown anybody for 2 months. I'll come back to that. Here comes number 2. The guy running that judo program, I never saw him put a judo gi on. I never saw him get on the mat and do judo ever. And he was one of those guys who had created this martial art organization. And he claimed to have rank and all sorts of martial arts, judo among them. But among the actual judo people in that community, they thought he was a joke. Well, that night when I realized nobody had thrown anybody, they all threw that night. And in point of fact, 3 months later, all of my judo kids entered a tournament down there, and my girl beat the kid who belonged to the head of judo in that state. So we were doing pretty good. Now, the traditional people are going to say, that's not what judo is about. Yeah, it is. What you define as judo, maybe not. But what the dictionary, what the International Olympic Committee, what the IJF and the continental unions and the national governing bodies say judo is. Yeah, it is. Now, the other one I am going to name names because that was Jukokai, hereafter called Juko Lai, and Rod Sarkanowski. Now, I'm sure for a long time, Rod had things pretty good, but the internet came along and nailed all of these guys. So let me give you some things to ask and listen to so you know whether or not these people are real or it's some sort of foo-foo. Before I go any further, that's the patch that Jukokai gave you, or you bought, when you joined the International Society of Traditional Judo. And they had special certificates that looked like they came from Japan, and you thought you were getting something legit. And oh, no, you weren't. The whole time I was with Jukokai, Rod Sarkanowski never put a judo gi on, never got on a mat, never did randori, nor did any of his top people, ever. So what is this if there's no randori and no shiai? It's toilet paper. Here's how you know. And I still argue with people about this. Big one. They'll all talk about the Kodokan as if the entire judo world bows to them. At one time, yes. Not anymore. Hasn't been that way for a very long time. Let me explain how judo works today. I know the traditional judo people say, we're not playing, we're taking our gi and going home. When judo became an Olympic sport, the International Olympic Committee made several demands, not requests, requirements. First, yes, sweetie, Christine the Wonder Cat wants attention. She's telling all of us we shouldn't be talking about judo. We should be talking about cat Roddy. Yes, sweetie, I'll be done in a little bit. If you have a cat and you're giving them dry food, I spent a whole lot of time because something was really upsetting her stomach. Crave is what the top vets have been telling me about. You cannot leave it down there for them to graze. She ate almost a whole bowl and threw up for 2 hours. I only put a little bit down there now, so she can't do that anymore. So if that's what you want to do, you got to get one of those timed things. Okay, let's go back to where we were. No, so the first thing the International Committee wants is a world governing body. Every Olympic sport has one, all of them. In this case, the International IJF, International Judo Federation, was created. And yes, in the beginning, that was at the Kodokan. They were going to run judo in the world. Then the next thing that has to happen is you have to have continental, all right, I see it went right out of my head. I'm sorry that I'm old. Continental unions that came back. Here in America, we have the Pan American Continental Union, and that's North America and South America and everything in there. I'm not sure what the ones in Japan and Asia are off the top of my head. You could easily go online and look this up. Google is your friend. Excuse me. Then every single country has to have a national governing body or an NGB. We had a unique situation here in America, and if you want, I'll talk about it in a minute. But though that also was at the Kodokan, and it was the All Japan Judo Federation. So the Kodokan, when judo became an Olympic sport, had the IJF, the International, Judo Federation, And it had the national governing body for Japan all out of the Kodokan. And so things move on. Boy, she's demanding, you know that? Well, unfortunately for the Kodokan, these things have bylaws and requirements, and you get to hold elections. And it didn't take long that people felt that was way too much power in one spot. So there were elections, and the first thing the new president did was he moved the location of the IJF. Now, All Japan Judo Federation was still in the Kodokan at that time. And people started moving along and things kept moving forward. Then eventually, even in Japan, it was decided, ah. So the All Japan Judo Federation, my understanding, that may have changed, but it wasn't in the Kodokan anymore. And the truth today, Kodokan rank, other than a nice certificate on the wall or historical, what's the word I'm looking for? Historical souvenir means nothing. Now, yeah, you got to prove to them you have the rank you want them to certify, and you're going to pay an arm and a leg to get that certification and get that certificate. But in the judo world, and now see, this will destroy the traditional people. Their hair is going to fall out, steam will come out of their ears. Kodokan rank means nothing. It is not the rank of a national governing body. Therefore, it's not recognized by the Continental Union, and ergo is not recognized by the IJF. And the traditional judo people have fits because they still live way in the past where everybody bows to the Kodokan. You'll hear them act like they still do. And that's how you know they have no connection with modern judo in any way. And the reality is the ranks are not certified. Sarkanowski, at one time, actually claimed Kodokan rank. But we had the internet by then. And Kodokan has a website, guys. We went, we asked, never heard of the guy. Then he began saying, I never said I had Kodokan rank. I wouldn't want Kodokan rank. I wouldn't have it on my wall. But he also claimed to have an 8th degree black belt in judo that was issued to him in Holland. And my dear jiu-jitsu friend Ben Bergwerf can tell you, we checked that. And they had never heard of him either. And the thing that made no sense to me, Anton Gisick was the first roundeyes to win the World Judo Championship. Gold medal and all that. And he is from Holland. And at the time, Rod was claiming to be an 8th Dan. Gisick was only a 6th. So what did Rod Sarkanowski do to be ranked higher than Anton Gisick? Now again, see, everybody who was really into judo realized that was bullcrap. But all the traditional guys dismissed it by saying, well, that's just the sport stuff. No, that's judo. You cannot make up your own rules. And to make a long story short with Juko Kai and Rod, he started threatening to sue people as we began finding out about him. But he always backed off because he knew he couldn't win. Well, Mr. Cunningham was also threatened by Rod, and he didn't back away. And when Rod backed away, he moved forward, sued Rod in court. All of us sent him the information we had, and he crushed Rod. I don't know what Jukokai is doing now. If they're there, I suspect they're teaching their own martial arts now. But this place, Jukolai, had beautiful certificates, all claiming there were headquarter groups in Japan they were reporting to and sending your promotion money to and none of them existed. There was no building there at all. So, first, there may be slight exceptions, but the average person who trains to do traditional judo is not on the mat doing randori the way Kanu wants it done, and I don't see them at the Shiais. They tend to blow that off by saying, oh, no, that's that IJS stuff. And then they use an interesting word. That's watered down judo. Really? And their randori looks awfully compliant, which was not what Kanu wanted. I'm not going to pick anybody. I could send you to another YouTube channel where a guy does this demonstration all the time. And oh, by the way, he's a fake eighth dan too, but he's got legitimate paper. But the people who gave him the paper simply took his check. He has no judo background, no judo career, and watch him teach judo. You're going to love the Uchimata, where he comes in and just puts his hand in front of Uki's knee, and Uki flies through the air. Guys, read Kanu. Traditional judo people will say Kanu never wanted judo to be an Olympic sport. And then you say, well, if that's true, why, as an old man, did he get on a boat and take a trip to Egypt to meet with the International Olympic Committee? And they will say, well, yes, he did that, but it wasn't to talk about judo. Really? What was he talking about? Of course he went there. He wanted judo in the Olympics. He wanted to show the world what he had created. And if you're not doing randori hardcore against a resisting opponent, real full time, full speed, full power, you're not learning judo. And if the rules of the IJF bother you that much, all you have to do is contact Steve Scott, find out about freestyle judo, and go play. But let me caution you. You've got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people doing that and wrestlers doing that. And if you think you're going to go over there and do your traditional nonsense, you're not going to last long. Now, they just got mad because I said traditional nonsense. Okay. Let's bring science back to the table and let's have a serious discussion about judo and why it's changed over the years. Problem number one. If you don't progress, you die. That is why we don't have dinosaurs here anymore. They were not adaptable. You've got to be able to learn. You've got to be able to progress. Now, first, this watered down nonsense. Here comes Kanu's actual genius. I see these guys wanting to train with joint locking throws and brutal techniques, and they all do it kata-like, which means they're not mastering it. They might pull it off in a real fight, but odds are they won't. Because what Kanu figured out was the way we defeat all of that deadly, dangerous stuff that they cannot practice is with very safe stuff that we can master. That's why the Gracies killed everybody. Every 20, 30 years, we have to relearn what Kanu said back then. Think about it. Either you're going to start busting arms in class, and Kanu understood that. That's why he didn't want it, because who's coming back to class? Before every single Shingitai tournament, John Saylor or I were ever at, one of us always said this: we all have to go to work on Monday. You must give your opponent a clear, present opportunity to submit. If you do not, we will throw you out of this tournament And what's going to happen to you in the locker room, you're never going to forget. You are not here to hurt somebody. Is that watering down? I'll accept watering down. In the old days, and again, on one of my favorite YouTube judo channels, they were talking about wakigatame today. And they were saying it's really, really, really hard to make it work. Well, yeah, because there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do wrong. But in the old days, and if you have a copy of Dynamic Judo, you can see it. You used to be able to put wakigatame, that means the arm bar, on standing and drive somebody into the mat. People were getting their arms snapped all the time. There are all sorts of throws where you can tie that arm up, and if the guy resists, he gets a broken arm, and if not, then he gets thrown and you win. And fortunately, wiser heads that clearly aren't in this traditional judo world said, we can't have that. We cannot have that. And on one of the Kodokan VHS tapes, which means I'm sure it's been transferred to DVD, I don't know which one it is, but I see Sato, somebody snaps him that way, and Sato got his arm snapped. And I don't think he could go, it was either the Worlds or the Olympics that year, but he couldn't go to one of those things. Bang, you weren't allowed to do that anymore. And you shouldn't be. You do not have to snap somebody's arm to learn practical, effective combat. It's just pooey. Kamibasami. Now, when the kamibasami, that's the scissor throw, controversy came up, I had a simple idea. And John put it right in Shingitai. It was simple. You are not allowed to lock any joint and then throw with it. Now, ours was better because that eliminated a whole concept. They threw kamibasami out because instead of hitting the waist and behind the knees, people were going behind the ankles and getting in front of the knees and breaking people's legs. Traditional judo says, water down. I say, if these people cannot be trusted to be sporting, then take it out. And let's put that on the table now once and for all. All of these people who say, that's a sport. That's not combat. I have a word for it. I have two words for them, and they're not good luck. When I'm at a match, when I'm working out randori, yeah, it's a sport because we are being sporting. That's the only reason it's a sport. You can talk about referees, you can talk about rules, but the bottom line is the two people participating have chose to be sporting. In other words, if I tap, they let go. If we've chosen not to be sporting, you tap, I choke you out. You tap, I break your arm. I throw you on your head. I don't try to hold you up at all. That's what a sport is. So again, when they say, the IJF doesn't even teach street fighting and self-defense anymore. IJF judo is worthless in a street fight. Really, Mr. Whatever rank you've promoted yourself to? On concrete, I'd love to see Yamashita hit you with Osoto. And then you tell me that IJF judo is too sporting. But here's the real problem. The traditionalists say nothing should change, nothing should move. We shouldn't learn from experience and make changes based on what we've learned. We're going to do it the way we've always done it. So let me debunk a couple things right now. Those who say judo kata are critically important. Well, if judo kata had any value to a competitive player, kata champions would be shiai champions too. And they're not. I am not putting it down. It's a tradition in judo. I think you should pursue it if that is your goal. And God bless you. I have known many wonderful kata champions in my life. I still know 3 of them. One of them has passed. And I have nothing but respect for them. But notice they compete with their kata. They get on the mat and do their thing. They don't just stay in the dojo and talk a good game. But if you're going to tell me we're going to learn something from kata that's going to improve your competitive, practical judo, I'm going to have to say, no, not true anymore. Let's remember when judo training methods came out, and I've shown you the book already, the whole judo world went nuts because they said weight training would destroy your judo. It would take away your flexibility, you would become muscle bound, and you wouldn't be able to do judo. That's what they said then. Are they saying that now? Seems to me every judo champion is lifting weights. Nobody buys that bullshit. So the tradition was proven wrong. Kata, maybe at one time you could learn something from it. But this is 2021. We have vastly superior ways to train people these days. But for my last one, and I'm praying Steve Scott sees this, because right now, due to COVID and stuff, I don't have a program anymore, or I would video this and put it here. But if you follow Steve Scott, he puts videos up all the time. He is my favorite. There's one more I put just under Steve, but I watch everything he does. I watch everything he says, and so should you. So Steve, please focus now. I know you're going to be able to follow me, and I need you to go in where you've got a camera and students and mats and demonstrate this for me. The only reason why you don't see this is because the rules changed and they don't want you to touch the legs anymore. Do I think that's bullshit? You bet. I really do. Because my family are masters of teguruma as a counter throw. And you just took that away from us. When you step in, I can't reach down and do what wrestlers call a high crotch anymore. You just took it away. And that's unfortunate. Here's my question. Here we go, Steve. Traditionally, when we put our judo gis on, now to these guys, you're supposed to walk out with your arms straight, standing up straight and tall. Both of you take the exact same grip, and then you get thrown like a good American or something. I don't know. Doesn't work that way. But because traditionally you took your right hand and you grabbed the lapel, if you're right-handed, that's what they do. I have a sporting coaching question, Steve. To get that collar, my reach under stress, 2 big, strong guys, I'm using one small appendage, my thumb, to hook that lapel to get my hands on it. And it's not really open on that side. I've got to come around. Do it, guys. Grab some lapels a few times. That's the traditional way. We're not supposed to change that. Now, I pause for one moment. Years ago, I watched video of a guy named Judo. He's got a very long last name, and I cannot pronounce it. You can find it on the Fighting Films site, and that would be fine. Okay. He had a concept in his judo that reminds me of Stephen Covey and his 7 habits of highly successful people. To wit, begin with the end in mind. Judo made a very big thing about get the grip you're going to want when you're on the mat and get it when you're standing up. Don't throw them and then try to get it down there. That's not traditional. But boy, it's smart. Rather than coming in with my right hand, doing judo, randori or shiai, IJF, freestyle, doesn't matter. I'm coming in with the left hand. First, America is a boxing culture. We're used to putting our left hand out there, not the right hand. Now, if you think about the way the gi folds when you put it on, and you all got to wear it correctly, hang on. They know they're not supposed to call it this time. Okay. The way the gi folds, if you come in with your left hand, that whole side is open to your left hand, all of it. And instead of reaching with a thumb that's going to get jammed, watch judo tournaments, see how many people are taped up. I'm going to smack your chest a bit with the back of my hand, and I'm going to stick my fingers in there. And trust me, get some partners, give it a shot. You're going to bang them and reach in there and take that collar. Hard. You're going to find you get it much faster, much stronger, with less injury. Now, the second you get there, you're going to pull on that collar, and your other hand's going to grab on the same side. And here's exactly what's going to happen. I am going to jerk that lapel down as hard as I can. And as I do, my left hand is going to slide up under there next to the neck. That's important. Now, when I do that, either they're going to bend over, and if they do, I'm coming over the top to get the belt, and it's going to be Christmas for me or my player. Or, much more likely, as I bend them, they're going to say, oh, no, you don't, because they know what's coming, and they're going to straighten up. They're going to fight you, and they're going to straighten up. When they straighten up, I'm letting go. I'm going to hang on to the gi, but I'm going to loosen my arm. And then all I'm going to do, and again, you can't do this in IJF judo anymore. Don't grab the pant leg. That's hard to do. You're going to take your hand and slap the inner thigh as they're coming up. You're going to slap and close your hand. And then you will have the pant leg. So your hand is right next to the artery on their neck. Don't get ahead of me. You're going to grab that leg, and since he was going that way, I'm going to tip him that way. And now his balance is broken here, and his leg is up in the air. And if it's me, not your knee, that would hurt. Use your thigh. Thigh them in the ass hard, and they'll come up. Then sweep out the other leg and drive them right down to the mat. And without missing a beat, bring this hand. You don't have to get inside the jacket. That would take too long. Down they go. Just come over the top. Put your hand behind the shoulder. Lean forward and squeeze. And if you didn't get in it pond for the throw, you're about to get a tap out. That is not traditional, guys. If you want to be a traditional judoka and go, okay. But I'll say this. When my ex-wife left, kicked me out. She really didn't leave. I had to go. And I won't get into any of that. But those first couple of months were really rough. And she had done that. And I went down to the Spirit of the Eagle camp. And my head was in a bad place. I was in a bad place. I hadn't started drinking yet. But I got down there, and Igor was down there. And Igor kept asking questions, wanted me to get my mind out of where it was. Tom, who was putting the carousels together, made me teach every day, twice a day. No chance for Mark to ruminate on the bad stuff. In the middle of all of that is when I came up with this, because that's where I kept my mind. And I showed it to Igor in the room. The next day in Randori, Igor went out on the mat, and now Igor could have crushed everybody anyway, but Igor destroyed everybody. And then we taught it to the whole camp. And people started going all over the country and killing people with this. Because when you're doing this, you can't pick your legs up. You cannot throw your weight backwards and pick your leg up unless you want to fall down. So as they're pulling back, you step in and go boom. Worked every single time. Do not take my word for it. If you're actually doing Randori, where it's actually a struggle, it's not compliant, get some reps in. Now, if they don't have pants down there, yeah, you could hook the knee. The pants are a little nicer because you can manipulate how they're standing. But that throw is not in traditional judo. That grip is not in traditional judo. It just works. You think modern judo is bad? Well, safety reasons aside, that short mat time that you have in modern judo makes you work your choke a whole lot faster. Hang on. You know I'm broadcasting live until 6 o'clock. That's why I stopped you the last time. Give me 15 more minutes, please. I'm sorry, sometimes you got to tell them more than once. Try it. This whole idea of putting pressure on the larynx is a horribly bad idea. It only hurts, doesn't knock anybody out, and it takes too long. But someday, if we get together, I'll show you how to use the tongue. Instead of attacking here, you attack up here, and you push the tongue into the throat, and people tap out immediately. And those are things you have to develop under the time limits and the rules. I'm all for anything that makes people not get hurt. Anything else I can live with. You don't want me to grab all I got to tell you, look at how kataguruma was originally done. Look at how it's done now. And if you really want to look at something, look at how kataguruma is done in the kata, because you're never going to pull that off in Randori. That's the whole point. Judo progresses as we learn what works. There may be 65 throws in traditional Kodokan Judo, and yes, I know there's more. But how many score Ippon in international competition? 10. And of the 10, how many score the most points? 5. So if those are the ones that work, why are you messing with what doesn't? That's it for today, guys. Hopefully you learned something. Nobody's watching right now, so hopefully down the road you will. You can make a comment. If you like what I say and want to hear more, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. If you got a problem, I'll debate anybody. All I ask is that you stay respectful and make an honest point. If you're just, going to say I'm a bad guy or something, I'm not going to give you the time of day. Have a wonderful 4th. Be safe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye for now.